If you're tired of watching sapphic films with sad endings where the ladies end up dead, maimed, or otherwise unhappy, then do I have the video for you. You are bound to find something to intrigue, so get your notes app out because today I've combined my 9-part series that covers 129 films that won't break your heart. Starting with a sapphic classic, we have Elena Undone, a long-time favourite of mine about Elena, the wife of a pastor who is feeling listless and unsatisfied with her role as a wife. When she meets Peyton, a magnetic attraction begins to brew, one that she doesn't understand but is compelled to explore. The film is by no means perfect. I talked about that in my full review of the film, link in the title cards, but it's still an immensely watchable film with some fantastic chemistry between two very capable leads that really elevate the movie through their performances. It's a great comfort movie for when you want something romantic and sexy to watch, and of course, has a happy ending. Next, we have Signature Move, a 2017 indie comedy about Zainab, a lawyer who is dealing with a mother who never leaves the house following the death of her husband, played by the wonderful Shabana Azim, who played Gay in the classic lesbian film Fire, who doesn't know her daughter is queer and wants to get her married to a man. Zainab's quiet life is turned upside down when she meets Alma right around the time she starts wrestling, giving her the courage to step out of the closet that she's been living in to live her life authentically. The film, in my opinion, doesn't ever quite find its footing, with the themes not quite managing to go beyond the surface, nor the beats really giving the punch to make it satisfying, which is a shame because it had potential. Having said that, you may enjoy it, and it can be found on Tubi for free. Saving Face is another sapphic classic and among the best lesbian rom-coms out there, one I have covered a number of times on my channel. When Will falls for Vivian, she finds herself unable to fully commit because she is deep in the closet. When her widowed mother winds up pregnant and unmarried, her parents throw her out in shame, and she winds up on Will's doorstep, which forces them to work on their relationship and in the process for Will to deal with her sexuality. Interestingly, this film made by Alice Wu, who you might know from her other film, The Half of It, was not originally meant to have a happy ending, but aren't we glad it does, because otherwise it would most certainly have not made it onto this list. It also would have been a great shame, especially since Asian American films with lesbian leads are already pretty thin on the ground. It's a solid film, not without its flaws, but one that is a must-see in my opinion. Another film with a happy ending is Summerland, about a writer, Alice, who is living on the English coast during World War II when she is assigned an evacuee boy from London to billet against her will. At first, she is set on getting rid of him as she is grieving the end of a relationship and doesn't have the space nor the desire for a child in her life. But against her will, her closed-off heart is gently pried open through the emerging relationship with this boy. It's a period drama, which I know we sapphics tend to have a soft spot for, but unlike many period dramas, we don't have to worry about any sapphics dying. While the relationship between Alice and the boy Frank is the focus of the film, there are flashbacks to the love Alice lost and an unexpected happy sapphic ending. For a film that's more on the buddy comedy side, there is Booksmart, a delightful film that follows two friends, Amy and Molly, as they try to cram in all the high school shenanigans they failed to do because they were too busy being model students into the night before their graduation. This results in a wild night full of hilarious escapades, including Amy, who is out and sporting a crush, awkwardly trying to get the girl. It doesn't quite go to plan, although as you can very accurately guess, it ends well for her. This is a wonderful film that is, as the title suggests, smart with plenty of wit and moments of delight, so I fully recommend you watch this one if you haven't already. Now, we've been getting a slowly growing number of sapphic Christmas rom-coms. I have a link to my top picks in the title cards if you're in the mood for any of those. All of them, by the way, end well, as you can well imagine. But here I have for you a Thanksgiving-themed film. Lesbian is again a comedy, one that gets pretty farcical. Lauren brings her girlfriend, Haley, back for Thanksgiving. She was meant to come out to them in the lead up to the day, but she's been putting it off, and when her roommate turns up, a guy her parents love, they mistake who she is actually with. It leads to an eventful Thanksgiving, but thankfully, one that ends well. More beautiful for having been broken is the story of an FBI agent who has been put on a sabbatical by her job and winds up in a small country town. There she meets a boy with special needs, and in spite of herself, he takes a shine to her, and through him she is drawn into the local community. Through him she also meets his mother, a local dance teacher who is struggling to provide the care her son needs as a single mother. This movie has enemies to lovers flavoring, but they quickly find themselves drawing together and a romance blossoms. It's got that Hallmark kind of feel to it and comes from the same makers as Elena Undone. Some solid performances from the leads and the endearing young boy make it a lovely watch. By the way, I made this list using the Sapphic film and TV database that I offer over on my Patreon at my Sapphic Warrior tier and above, and allows me to filter based off various criteria, in this case the type of ending it has. If you want access to that and more, pop on over. Now, these next few are films that have a positive, hopeful ending, but don't necessarily end up with the protagonist in a sapphic relationship. The Indian coming-of-age film Margarita with a Straw follows Layla, a young woman with cerebral palsy who moves to New York for her studies. Keen to soak up as many experiences as she can, she throws herself into this new world. There she meets Kanam, a blind woman, and the two find themselves in a relationship, one that her parents don't know about. When Layla and Kanam announce that they are moving in together, her parents assume that they are just good friends, not knowing that their daughter is bi, and while this is a sweet romance, things don't go smoothly due to Layla's haste to explore the world. The ending, however, is one that feels empowered, with Layla emerging as a capable young woman with the world at her fingertips. Naiad is not a romance in any way, but rather a story of a deep friendship between two queer women that sees them attempting a superhuman feat, namely for Naiad to swim from Cuba to the Florida Keys. Having attempted and failed decades earlier, Naiad finds herself at 60 reignited with a passionate drive to give it another go. Driven by the need to push her limits, she sets about training with her best friend Bonnie as her coach. With the need to find funding, weather setbacks, and a channel with gnarly currents, her work is cut out, and through it she must face her inner demons in order to push through her own limits. A truly powerful and beautiful biopic that had me in tears, in the best way. Fully recommend. I also fully recommend Pariah, the story of Alike, a teen who is trying to find her way in a family that has placed rigid expectations around her, expectations that do not allow for her more masc appearance nor her sexuality. Through her poetry, she seeks to find an outlet for the desperation this environment creates, complicated by the fact that she is falling for a girl. This is a rich and beautiful film, allowing for nuance and depth, and though it might not have a fairy tale happy ending, it ends on a note of hope for Alike's future. The next few I'll mention briefly. We've got Crush, a teen rom-com that exists in a world where homophobia doesn't, which makes for a light and refreshing film. The script and performances are also delightful, and it's a cute film where the girl gets the girl. Desert Hearts is from 1985 and famously known for being the first lesbian film with a happy ending, as I have mentioned many times before. When a woman goes through a divorce, she finds herself at a homestay and she meets Kay, a vivacious young woman who will not allow society to dictate how she should live her life, and the two women find themselves falling in love. Fire, the movie I mentioned earlier in this video, where two sister-in-laws find themselves falling in love when bride Sita is brought to her new home, but finds that she can't be the quiet, retiring wife she's expected to be. The burst of fresh energy she brings into the household stirs Radha, wife to the other brother, waking her up to desires she hadn't had in years. Love this film. I couldn't but mention Imagine Me and You, probably the most polished and slick rom-com offering we have, with exactly the type of ending you'd expect from a film like this. On Rachel's wedding day to her best friend and longtime boyfriend, her eye is caught by Luce, the wedding florist. Intrigued, she initiates a friendship with Luce, one that quickly grows into some serious feelings that has Rachel very seriously questioning her sexuality. And the final suggestion for this list is another of my faves, Kismig, or With Every Heartbeat in English, around Frida and Mia, who are brought together when their parents announce that they are getting married. Although Mia is also engaged, she is immediately drawn to Frida, stirring up feelings she had put away a long time ago and forcing her to face what she wouldn't when she was younger. Below Her Mouth is a Canadian film from 2016 about Jasmine, who spots Dallas, who is working on a roofing project next door. When they cross paths at a lesbian bar, Dallas makes a move despite knowing that Jasmine is engaged to be married to a man, and though Jasmine is somewhat resistant, she succumbs to Dallas's charm. Over a weekend, while the fiancé is away, they engage in a passionate affair that shakes both of them to their core. This film is definitely up there on the sexy meter with some relatively, shall we say, detailed love scenes, and it's probably because of this that this film has been popular with so many of us sapphics. I thought it was decent, and best of all, it has a good ending for the ladies. Bound, the 1996 neo-noir classic from the Wachowski sisters, is another saucy film which put both of them on the map as filmmakers, opening up the possibility for them to make the smash hit The Matrix. Here it's the story of Violet, who wants to escape from her mafioso boyfriend and sees her opportunity when she meets Corky when she comes to fix some plumbing in her apartment. Things ramp up pretty quickly between the women in true U-Haul style, and they hatch a plan to steal some money from the mob, use the boyfriend as the patsy, and make their escape. Things don't exactly go to plan, but one thing is certain, they get their happy ending. 2022's Badhai-do is a much tamer story, but one I rather enjoyed. It follows sapphic Sumi and a gay man, Shardul, who decide to have a lavender marriage to each other so that they can get their families off their backs. That way they can live their best gay lives with the same-sex partner of their choice. While on paper that sounds good, it's hardly straightforward, as their families meddle in their lives, which requires them to charade as a legitimate couple and generally deal with having to be so deeply implicated in each other's lives. For Sumi, who has a girlfriend, Rimjim, it leads to lies to explain why she's living with them. The movie did toy with a will they ultimately end up falling in love with each other storyline, probably to keep the straight audiences entertained, so I guess a bit of straight baiting. They thankfully do not go there, and both characters stay resolutely queer, and even get a happy ending with them out and proud. I won't lie, I did get a bit emotional at the Pride Parade sequence, and the love story between Sumi and Rimjim is lovely. Another film with some lovely gay and lesbian solidarity is the delightful Dating Amber, a film that takes us back to the mid-90s Ireland, where Amber and Eddie decide to fake date to keep the school bullies off their back. A lovely friendship develops. While Amber meets and starts a relationship with a girl, Eddie is struggling with his sexuality and the expectations placed on him as a young man during the Troubles. Ultimately, it ends well. This is a well-made movie that ranks among my faves, with lovely performances and that delightful Irish humour to craft an affecting coming-of-age story. A list about happy sapphic endings would not be a worthy list if But I'm a Cheerleader was not on it. This campy comedy is rightly a cult classic which takes a farcical look at the utter ridiculousness of conversion therapy. Megan is suspected for being a lesbian because she seems to have an aversion to pashing her boyfriend and tends to pin up hot swimsuit models in her locker. Her family and friends stage an intervention which sees her heading to conversion camp to help pray away the gay. But all that happens is she gets to meet a whole heap of other queers, and while she is determined to cure herself by becoming a good heterosexual, she finds herself falling for one girl in particular, Graham, the perfect cynical counterpoint to her bright and sunny personality. The film is a tonic to all the depressing and gritty queer films out there and sports a robust cast. Nina's Heavenly Delights is a film I found less memorable, about Nina who returns to Glasgow from London for her father's funeral to find that his restaurant, now half owned by her childhood friend Lisa, is in trouble and might get sold to the local entrepreneur. Unable to accept that possibility, she teams up with Lisa to help save the restaurant by entering a cooking competition, and along the way she finds love. It's been more than a hot minute since I saw this, so perhaps it's time to rewatch, since I have read comments about how a few of you love this film. I just remember thinking that some of the sequences were pretty cringe and not being convinced by the chemistry, but hey, I have had changes of heart about a number of sapphic films upon rewatch, and perhaps this would be one of them. At any rate, this is a low-budget rom-com that most certainly has the happy ending we crave. I'm sure there is absolutely no surprise at I Can't Think Straight making it onto this list. It is an enduring fave, one that fits easily into a select number of sapphic rom-coms. Layla meets Tala through a friend, and a friendship quickly follows. Tala is set to be married, and her family is hopeful that this time she won't cancel the engagement at the last minute, since she has a track record for doing that. During a wedding shopping excursion to which Layla is invited, their growing attraction can no longer be ignored, and it leads to the bedroom. While Layla is ready to assume her sexuality and comes out to her family, Tala is not yet ready. But while she rejects what's happened, she ultimately must face who she is and who she wants. It's a sweet and easy rom-com with a happy ending. Let me mention the next few briefly. Liberty's Secret, a musical about a minister's daughter who is invited on the campaign trail for a conservative candidate and falls for the campaign manager. It's low budget and I thought it was just okay, but if you enjoy musicals, you may very well enjoy this one. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman is based on the true life story of the man who invented Wonder Woman and based it on the woman he was in a poly relationship with, his wife and girlfriend. The two women were also very much into each other as well, and they raised their kids as one happy family. Show Me Love, the 90s film about Agnes dealing with school bullies and crushing on the supposedly straight Eileen, the popular girl, until one fateful night the two girls connect and love might well be in the air. The fallout about two girls who grow close after the traumatic experience of a school shootout that sees them stuck together. While the topic is heavy, the ending is not. These next few are movies that have a positive ending but don't necessarily end up with that categorically happy romantic ending. I still think they are worth mentioning, however. The half of it follows teen Ellie, studious and smart. She's developed a bit of an entrepreneurial enterprise where she can do other kids' homework for a fee, and one day she is approached by a guy, Paul, to help him write love letters to his crush, Asta. This just happens to be the girl that Ellie is crushing on as well, giving her free rein to say all the things that she's wanted to say but never has. Through this, Ellie and Paul develop a close friendship, but it's complicated when Paul finds out Ellie's real feelings. This film is a coming of age that is less about getting the girl and more about the close friendship that develops. While it's not the fairy tale ending we might want, it does end with Ellie heading off into a hopeful future. With the film You Can Live Forever, it's implied that things ultimately end well for the two protagonists, although it doesn't outright state it, hence it being in this section. When Jamie is sent to live with her aunt and uncle, both of whom are Jehovah's Witnesses, Jamie finds herself attending the meetings, and there she meets the devout Marika. Their attraction is immediate, and due to her desire to be close to Marika, Jamie finds herself agreeing to go to Bible study and other Jehovah's meetings just to be close to her. It's clear the feelings are mutual, and despite it being seen as very wrong by the church, the two girls start a relationship. To help justify this to herself, Marika twists herself into a pretzel trying to make this relationship make sense within the stifling constraints of her religion and failing. While it seems that things are over between them, perhaps in the end, they are not. I thought this was a solid film with some interesting themes around religion, so I do recommend. The Truth About Jane is a categorically happy ending, just not one that ends with her getting the girl. Instead, she gets the support of her family, which is, let's be real, probably more vital. The conflict of this film revolves around Jane, not only coming to terms with her sexuality and dealing with the pangs of first love, but her mum working through her homophobia to be supportive of her child. It's a made-for-TV movie, so simple in its script and execution, but also a film that, at the time it came out, hugely impactful and enjoyable to watch. This last film may or may not deserve to be on this list depending on how you interpret the final moments of this film. I, of course, opt to interpret this in the gayest of ways. Two best friends, Kat and Samantha, decide to take advantage of a couple's retreat Kat's mum gifted her in order for her to repair her relationship with her ex-boyfriend. This requires them to pretend to be married, which they do very convincingly. While they are there for a bit of R&R, through the weekend they begin to question their relationship, and it seems that all indicators are pointing to the fact that they are perfect for each other. Insofar, this is a simple and easy rom-com with some lovely performances and well-written character studies. By the end of the film, the rom-com formula has appeared to have done its magic, replete with a public declaration, but in the final seconds of the film, a question mark is raised, which, if this was a film made today, would be deeply aggravating, but since I like the rest of the film, I'm giving it a pass. Today we're starting with the critically acclaimed South Korean film The Handmaiden, which was adapted from the Sarah Waters novel Fingersmith. This film offers sumptuous cinematography with a gothic aesthetic. Suki is enlisted to pose as a handmaiden for the wealthy Lady Hideko with the intention of defrauding her of her money. Only she finds herself falling for Lady Hideko, and it's mutual. Suki confesses the plan, and it turns out that there is more to the story than she's been told. The two women agree to outwit the men who have conspired to take advantage of them. This is a film some love and some don't. Personally, I don't, and I made a video where I talk about it, link in the title cards. But love it or hate it, the ending is unequivocally triumphant for the two ladies. Kajillionaire also ends triumphantly for its ladies, which follows a young woman, Old Dolio, whose growth into an adult has been stunted by her emotionally absent, small-time petty criminal parents. Desperate for human connection, she initially resents Melanie, a young woman that her parents not only invite into this tight-knit family dynamic, but seem to embrace with open arms. Melanie's warm personality slowly works on Old Dolio, who finds in her someone she can connect with. This is a delightfully off-kilter film, which at times is bizarre, but it uses its offbeat humour beautifully to illustrate Old Dolio's emotional state. More of a crowd pleaser is Les Amours d'Anaïs, a film that follows the carefree, charming and hedonistic Anaïs who, in her early 30s, flits from relationship to relationship while stalling on finishing her thesis in literature. That is until she meets the wife of her latest lover, Émilie, a well-respected author whose work has captured Anaïs's imagination. She begins to pursue Émilie, and while Émilie is initially reluctant, she finds herself falling for Anaïs as well. While it takes a while to get to that point in the storyline, a bit too long if you ask me, the chemistry between the leads is easy and believable and makes for a lovely film that I enjoyed immensely. And of course, it ends well. For a different vibe, there is the film Yes or No, a 2010 Thai film, which, if you've been enjoying the plethora of Thai web series that have been coming out of late, like Gap, Blank, or 23.5, you could well enjoy this film and its follow-up, Yes or No too. It follows Pai, who moves into her dorm room to find that her roommate is a boyish presenting girl called Kim. They become friends, but as they get closer, the question of whether they are just friends or perhaps more begins to play on their minds. You can guess where this is going. I watched this a long time ago and thought it was a sweet enough film, although not what I would normally gravitate towards, but you may love it. Girls Like Magic is a recommendation from my comment section, so this is not one I've actually seen. By the looks of the trailer, it looks like it's a pretty low-budget affair, and honestly, those are often the ones that have the happy endings because it's probably a passion project by a queer filmmaker. It looks like it's a friend-to-lover story about a girl called Magic who moves to LA from the UK and falls in love with a self-sabotaging lesbian. I'm guessing they end up together. It's perhaps a total crime that I haven't yet watched this next one, Bottoms, the comedy that was all the buzz last year. It's from the same makers as the queer film Shiver Baby, which also received some buzz. Here it follows two queer teens who are desperate to sleep with girls, and so in order to make that happen, they set up a girls' fight club. It leads to misadventure in getting the girls of their dreams. I've heard good things about it, so I imagine I will check it out at some point. Let me mention the following briefly. There's Something in the Water is about Alex, a woman living in a conservative Texan town who reconnects with her high school friend who has divorced her husband because she's gay, and it makes Alex reflect on her own sexuality. You can guess where this goes. Thelma, a psychological thriller about a woman who manifests supernatural powers as she deals with being attracted to a girl at her uni. Really enjoyed this one. The rightly popular film Everything Everywhere All at Once is a wild ride and one I gained new appreciation for when I recently rewatched it. I liked it so much I did a Patreon exclusive review about it recently. It centers the relationship of Evelyn, who is struggling with her daughter Joy's sexuality, and the rift this has caused between them that threatens the very fabric of reality, leading to an exhilarating romp through the multiverse. Dense and delicious, it's well worth a watch, even if the happy ending is not explicitly around the relationship between Joy and her girlfriend. When Night is Falling got nominated a few times by you in the comments about a young religious academic woman who crosses paths with an acrobat in a circus and a whole new world is opened up to her. It's got a few steamy moments in there as well. It's not for me, but you may well love it. Now, the next few movies are movies that you might call happy light. Carol is a well-beloved sapphic film based on the novel The Price of Salt about Teresa who falls for an older woman, Carol. Things are a bit more complicated, however, due to a husband and a daughter who could become collateral damage in the divorce. I feel like this is a movie that pretty much everyone has seen, so I probably don't need to say much more about it other than to say that despite the obstacles that get put in their way, the final shot of the movie suggests that there is hope for the two ladies. In a similar way, The War Widow, a 1976 teleplay about a mother and wife, Amy, whose husband is fighting on the front during World War I, is also happy light. She feels listless and uninspired with her life until by chance she meets Jenny, a modern, carefree woman who works as a photographer. Intrigued by the idea of a working woman, she helps Jenny with her photography work despite the disapproval of her mother, and from there an attraction develops that she doesn't immediately know how to name. This is a film I enjoyed a lot. It has the vibe of a stage play put to film, but within the quiet scenes an intelligent script emerges. I have linked a copy of the film in the description. A Date for Mad Mary is about Mary, a young woman who has been released from prison, and she is trying to reintegrate herself into her old life. Only her high school friends have moved on, and she finds herself frustrated and left out. When her best friend is getting married, she assumes she will be the maid of honor, but it seems less and less likely given the growing distance between them. But through the wedding preparations, Mary meets Jess, the wedding photographer, and a friendship develops. While Mary doesn't want to admit she's developing feelings for Jess at first, she ultimately realizes that her attempts to impress her former best friend are not worth it, and she's better off being authentic to who she is. I watched this one some time ago, and I thought it was fine, not at least for me particularly noteworthy, but the ending is hopeful. Majama is a film I enjoyed a great deal more, although I did have my frustrations with the film, and it led me to doing a Patreon exclusive video for that too, because my frustrations were born out of the potential I saw in the film. With a powerhouse like Madhuri Dixit in the lead as a queer woman who has suppressed this knowledge her whole life to be the archetypal good wife and mother, she is given little choice but to face her sexuality when her secret is revealed to not just her family but her whole neighborhood. This is happening just as her son is getting engaged to a traditional wealthy family. The ending ending is a bit ambiguous, although it is ultimately positive and uplifting. The ending to Mosquita y Mari is also somewhat ambiguous. This one follows teen Yolanda, who is studious, just as her parents want. When Mari moves into the neighborhood, she finds herself distracted, and the friendship evolves into something neither girl knows how to name, and it results in jealousy. It's been some time since I watched this, but I remember being impressed with the quiet, thoughtful coming-of-age film, and while it may not have an explicit happy ending, I do recommend. Mystère à la Tour Eiffel is a fun French mystery about Louise, who is framed for the murder of her father, Gustave Eiffel, after whom the Eiffel Tower is named, and in order to clear her name, she must not only break out of the asylum where she is incarcerated, but then follow the clues to find out who the real killer is, with the police hot on her tail. While on her quest, she meets Henriette, a magician's assistant who proves to be an ally. Louise finds herself falling for her. It's a fun, made-for-TV movie that gave me Tipping the Velvet and Fingersmith vibes. I suspect some inspiration was taken from these works, a happy ending notwithstanding, which to me is just the ticket. In the TV movie An Unexpected Love, when Kate divorces her husband and finds herself a single mother of 2 teens, she also gets a new job and develops an attraction for her new boss, who is also a lesbian, Mac. They both catch feelings, and I'm guessing the rest writes itself. I haven't seen it, so I can't say anything about it, other than I see that Wendy Crewson is playing the boss, and she makes an appearance in another film on this list, Better Than Chocolate. I really enjoyed her in that, so I'm curious to see this one. It's a Lifetime movie, just to set expectations, and I've seen mixed reviews, but it has a happy ending. I found a copy of the movie on Dailymotion, so link in the description. The Prom is an unabashed musical rom-com where some self-absorbed theatre stars decide to take up a cause when their latest show bombs. This comes in the form of helping a high schooler, Emma, who wants to take her girlfriend Alyssa to the prom, but the school retaliates by cancelling the entire event. The theatre stars burst onto the scene to make sure that Emma gets her prom. It's a star-studded movie with the likes of Kerry Washington, Meryl Streep, and Nicole Kidman. It has big musical numbers to tap your toes to, and while drama causes a little wobble for the sapphic ladies, there are some disapproving parents and the like, they ultimately get the gayest of proms and a grand musical finale which, I won't lie, I got a little teary-eyed at. It was a fun and easy movie. La Luciérnaga, also known as The Firefly in English, is a Colombian film about Lucia, whose brother is killed in a car accident the day he was meant to get married. She grows close to his fiancée, Mariana, as they deal with the grief of their loss, and through it, a tender love develops. For Lucia, she must then choose whether she wants to stay with her husband or start a new life with Mariana. This is not a film I've seen. Thank you to those who recommended it to me in the comments, and judging by that fact, I'm guessing Lucia chooses her new lady love. This next one I have seen, however. Thanks to her is a film I stumbled across on YouTube recently, and it's a feature-length version of the short film from 3 years back, which got 2 million views. I had no expectations, and while I am hardly the demographic for this film, I ended up thinking it was a cute, if fairly flawed film. What I liked was the fact that it had a bit of intersectionality there with an ace lesbian as the love interest, while how that might realistically work in a relationship with someone who is not asexual was not explored in depth. I could well imagine it would feel very affirming to show an ace lesbian in a relationship and it working out. It follows Millie, who is working hard to get a soccer scholarship to college and finds herself having to do community service for a month alongside Andy following an altercation she got caught up in. Millie is intrigued by how Andy seems so confident and open in her sexuality, and while doing the community service work at the retirement home, she meets a later-in-life sapphic couple and gets to hear their story, which gives her the courage to face her own sexuality. Not only does she come out to Andy, but she finds herself attracted to her, although because Andy is also asexual, it means the growing feelings between the girls are not clearly laid out, and it leads to a bit of drama. Nothing too bad, because by the end, they're a couple. Love Classified is about a romance writer who decides to return to town to reconnect with her 2 kids after a long absence, and her return is not received with open arms as she might have desired. Her daughter, Taylor, single and looking for love, decides to answer an old-fashioned classified ad and is surprised to find that Frankie is a woman, played by Ariane Mandy, who you might well recognize from the Our Word Gen Q. While Taylor is initially taken aback, she finds she gets along well with Frankie, and so she decides to give love with her a go. While they seem to jump into being pretty committed far too quickly for it to feel plausible, which irked me a little bit, for Hallmark it's frankly a solid offering, and look, it's an unabashed romance film, so it has a happy ending, and about that I can't complain. Ich will dich is a German TV movie that made it onto my Mature Sapphic Ladies series recently, as do the next 2 entries as well, so let me just cover them briefly. Mahi, married with children, finds her head turned when an old friend turns up with his fiancée. It's happy endings all around for the queer couples on Better Than Chocolate, an indie rom-com, when Maggie's mother and brother unexpectedly show up just as she has met a girl she really likes. Die Konkurrentin is about two women who are pitted against each other in the workplace by their boss, but instead of one of them being ousted from the business, they fall in love. The next few are still happy endings, but not in the romantic way. Now, Almost Adults is a happy ending. I'm just sure many people who watched it were wanting Elise Bauman and Natasha Negovanlis to end up together given their massive popularity on the web series Camilla, and that's not what happened. But Elise's character, Mackenzie, does come out and she starts dating women. It causes some trouble with Natasha's character, best friend Cassie, because Mackenzie's realization that she's gay causes an upheaval to their tight-knit dynamic. But I don't remember a whole lot since it's been a while, which perhaps is saying something. With Ammonite, we get an ending that is somewhat open-ended. It suggested the women get back together with its final shot, but the issues raised during the movie remain unresolved, and so I would say, much like the movie Carol, it's happy light. Here it follows Mary Anning, a taciturn woman who lives on the English coast and has dedicated her life to fossil hunting. In order to make ends meet, she and her mother also offer board in their home, and when Charlotte is brought to them by Charlotte's husband to convalesce after a miscarriage, Mary is asked to take her along on her fossil expeditions to help revive her spirits. As they spend time together, an attraction grows, which leads to an affair. While it didn't get near the attention that other historical lesbian films have, it's one that I found absorbing and beautifully done. And plus, the Dutch movie that came out of the popular web series of the same name is another film I enjoyed. Here it follows Anne living in Amsterdam, but set to move to Montreal with her girlfriend Sarah, who heads over to start her dream job, while Anne will follow once she's completed her book, which she's struggling to finish. During their separation, Anne finds herself exploring her identity on all levels, and because she's in a poly relationship, it also includes some other partners. It's not a happy romantic ending for Anne, but it certainly is uplifting and hopeful as she figures out who she is and what she wants. Appropriate Behavior is a great film that might not have protagonist Shirin back with her ex at the end of the movie, but we do see growth in her as she comes to terms with the separation. This is a clever comedy about Shirin trying to find her place in the world as a bisexual and as a daughter of Persian parents, to whom she is not out. We follow her as she stumbles through her life, going on dates, hookups, and trying to find the right bra size. It's been a while since I saw this one, but I remember enjoying it a lot and being especially impressed with Desiree Akhavan, who wrote, directed, and starred in it. She also directed the next one on this list, The Miseducation of Cameron Post, adapted from a novel. Here we follow Cameron in the 90s, who is discovered on prom night making out with a girl in a car. She's thrown into the confusing and insidious world of conversion therapy, and her saving grace is that she makes friends with two others that help provide some much-needed perspective as she wrestles with what her religion versus her heart is telling her. Another excellent film that has a hopeful, uplifting ending, just not one that ends in romance. This next one I haven't seen, but I do know how it ends, and it's been called a feel-good movie. It also has Nick Offerman in it, who I've enjoyed from Parks and Rec, and also that unexpectedly gay episode in The Last of Us that had the internet abuzz. Here he plays Frank, a dad to queer daughter Sam, who is getting ready to head off to college at the end of summer. Wanting to connect with her, they end up making a song that goes viral when he uploads it to Spotify, and so he suggests they make another one and perhaps even form a band. This is primarily about the father-daughter dynamic, but Sasha Lane plays Sam's love interest, and the rest of the film seems to have a few well-known faces like Ted Danson and Toni Collette. So while Sam is off to college at the end of the film, and I assume it's the end of her romance as she heads off to new adventures, it looks like it could be a worthwhile watch. Let's start with My Days of Mercy, a movie from 2017 about Lucy, who is, along with her sister and brother, protesting the death penalty and trying to get their father off death row after he was convicted of killing their mother. Lucy meets Mercy, a lawyer and daughter to a cop who is tied up in Lucy's father's case, and despite the unwritten rule that they shouldn't, they start a romance. I haven't seen this movie, but with a powerhouse like Elliot Page in the lead, pre-transition of course, I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy the film. From the trailer, it looks like there is a tender love between the two. However, it also looks like it deals with some heavy themes, so it doesn't appear to be a joyous film, although according to Wikipedia, it ends on a happy note for the couple. A film that is a lot lighter is Do Revenge from 2022, a black comedy about two girls who, despite not knowing each other, decide to do revenge on each other's bullies. They grow close as they execute on their plan, but one of the girls, Eleanor, is hiding a secret. Eleanor is also a sapphic, and while on her quest, she meets Gabby, sister to one of the bullies. Their storyline is secondary and so doesn't feature heavily, but there is also some subtext between Eleanor and her newfound friend, Drea, and I was rather enjoying it. It's a fun, light-hearted film with a couple of satisfying twists and a happy sapphic ending. The Feels is about two sapphic ladies, Andy and Lou, who are engaged to be married and are throwing a bachelorette party by renting a house out of town and inviting everyone along. When Lou confesses that she's never had an orgasm, Andy is surprised and upset. It forces Andy and Lou to examine their relationship. It ends with the ladies still together, although I can't remember if it's also the other type of happy ending, if you catch my drift. I watched this movie a long time ago and I thought it was okay. There were some comedic elements that I thought worked, but it didn't quite hit the spot for me overall. I mean, it's better than many sapphic films out there because, let's not kid ourselves, genuinely good sapphic films don't always feel abundant, certainly not ones with happy endings. Camilla the web series, which got very popular back in the mid-2010s, got a film as a sequel in 2017, where we check in on the two sapphic ladies, Camilla, vampire turned human, and Laura. There seems to be a problem, namely that Camilla is having some lapses that sees her vamping out, as they call it, and this leads Laura, Camilla, and their gang of college friends to reunite in order to solve the mystery. I haven't seen it, so can't say much about it, except that it's very gay and has a happy ending. It looks like it's a bit of fun, and also has Dom Provost-Cholki of Winona Earp fame making an appearance, which is a bonus. Next, I have a Turkish film called Love Spells and All That, a movie that looks to be a bit of an art house film, and given it was recommended by one of you, my subscribers, I trust that it has a happy ending. I did try to verify but couldn't find a confirmation. The film itself does include a spell that Rayan had cast 20 years prior when the girl she fell in love with, Erin, was sent off to Paris for her education, hoping to bring her back. The spell perhaps has worked because Erin never forgot about her and has come back to the sleepy Turkish village in hope of rekindling a romance, but Rayhan, settled in her life, is reluctant to let Erin back in. This next one, Walk With Me, is a low-budget romantic drama about a woman who leaves her husband. While looking for a place to live, she meets a realtor who is also a musician, who, by the way, has a beautiful singing voice, and the friendship they develop turns to romance. Then, amidst divorce and creating a new life, she must also contend with her sexuality. It's a fairly easy and straightforward film. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it all that much, but then I wondered if I'd been too quick to judge, and maybe I was in a mood that day, and I found on my revisit that it was in fact very watchable. A soft and sweet film. If you want to check it out, you can by jumping over to Tubi, where it's available for free. Another film recommended to me by one of you in the comments is Love My Life, a 2006 film from Japan about two university students, Ichiko and Eri, who fall in love. When Ichiko comes out to her father, she's surprised to learn that there are a lot of gays in the family. Both her father and mother, it would seem. I haven't seen this one, but I did find a link to the movie here on YouTube with English subs, so the link is in the description. Then we have Out at the Wedding, a 2007 rom-com that is either awful or delightful, depending on which IMDb review you believe. Jeannie finds herself at the wedding of her estranged sister, where a rumor circulates that she is in a relationship with a woman when she's not. She's engaged to a black Jewish man, which apparently is worse. So when her family is chill with her fake girlfriend, she goes with it. Then her family comes to visit and they want to meet this girlfriend, so she hires one. Sounds like a fake relationship trope, and it sounds like fun. Let me mention the next briefly. Debs, the campy spy spoof rom-com that is altogether very ridiculous and a great amount of fun about a girl who is training to be a spy. When she bumps literally into the world's biggest criminal, Lucy Diamond, she doesn't expect there to be a spark, but there is, and that is a problem. The incredibly true adventure of two girls in love, where a young Laurel Holman falls in love with a girl from her school and they have to face their small town. The Intervention, a Clea Duvall film, from But I'm a Cheerleader, reunites some of the cast from the movie, and she and Natasha Lyonne are a couple who go to have a weekend with friends with the intention of staging an intervention for a couple of them. She also finds her head turned by a young and impish girlfriend to one of her friends, which causes friction in her relationship. Alto, where a young woman falls for the daughter of the leader of the mob, and letting both their families know is not necessarily straightforward. The next few are movies that are not explicitly a happy ending for the sapphic ladies, but do end on a hopeful or uplifting note. T11 Incomplete is another low-budget affair with Kate, a home aide to a young paraplegic woman Laura, rebuilding her life after getting help for alcoholism. She and Laura's relationship evolves into an affair, but pressure in Kate's life leads her to betraying Laura. The ending is left somewhat ambiguous. It does show, however, that Kate is healing the relationship with her family. While this film is not joyful, it's a quiet, sometimes desperate look at a woman later in recovery. I thought it was well made and touching, and like I said, a positive, hopeful ending. The same can be said for the movie Heartland, about a woman, Lauren, whose partner has recently died, and she finds herself jobless and moving back in with a conservative mother. When her brother and his fiancée Nicole come to stay while on business, Lauren and Nicole connect. Each dealing with their own situation, they find solace in each other. This is a movie that I really enjoyed, and numbers among my favorites. It's a well-crafted script with good acting. I did a full review of this movie on this channel, link in the title cards, if you want to know more. And while it doesn't end with the happy sapphic ending we might want, the ending is still uplifting and it feels very fitting. The last entry is Princess Sid, which follows 16-year-old Sid, who goes to stay with her aunt in Chicago for the summer, and there she meets the local barista Katie, which blossoms into a summer romance. While they promise to keep in touch when Sid leaves at the end of summer to go back to South Carolina, I don't feel I can categorically call this a romantic happy ending. Although the relationship between Sid and her estranged aunt, which the movie is arguably primarily about, ends on a lovely note. It is a film that is hopeful and positive, allowing Sid to not only explore feelings for a woman, but also explore her gender expression while in a safe environment. Recommended to me by you in the comments, Mama and Mama is an Italian dramedy about two women who are struggling to navigate the Italian fertility system in their desire to have a child together. Not only is there pushback from people around them, but it also puts a financial burden on them, which they must navigate in order to make their dreams of a family come true. I haven't seen it, but Vanity Fair calls it a fairy tale, so it looks like it's a feel-good film, and that it ends well for our sapphic couple. Based off the trailer, it seems like a decent movie. I know for certain that Ek Ladki Kodeka to Esalaga ends well for the sapphic protagonist because this one I have seen. Sahil falls for Sweetie, who is hiding a secret, that she is not only a lesbian but that she has a girlfriend. When he finds this out, he is supportive and he helps her as she navigates coming out to her conservative family and community. This is a groundbreaking film from Indian cinema, as it was more mainstream than anything else that had come out on the subject of homosexuality in Bollywood prior. It also had a few stars like Anil Kapoor and Juhi Chawla in supporting roles, which is a powerful endorsement. The movie doesn't dedicate much time to the lesbian couple. We get a few tame scenes between them, and the rest of the film centers a lot more around the family and community dealing with the news, and at times it feels like Sahil is more the main character than Sweetie, which I didn't particularly appreciate. What I did like is that there is a sapphic protagonist who is clear in her sexuality, and overall the movie offers a clear, positive message for LGBTQ+. Au revoir Julie is a 1998 French-Canadian film about Juliette and Julie, who meet again after 15 years to rekindle their friendship. There is immediate tension between them that begins to unravel as they reminisce about their youth when, to Julie's shock, Juliette admits to her that she is in love with her. At first, she rebuffs Juliette, but then she comes to realize that she might have feelings too. The fact that this is a French-Canadian film means that I am inclined to believe the positive reviews I read about it. I saw it being compared to the classic Before Sunrise, so that is no small praise. It looks to be a very character, dialogue-driven movie, and I have found a version with English subs on YouTube, albeit in very low quality. I have linked it in the description. I haven't seen it, and it's a suggestion from one of you, my viewers, so I trust it ends well for the two. Einfach nur Liebe is a TV movie that is part of a German series with films all about love and the twists and turns it can take. In Season 20, Episode 3, we get a sapphic storyline about Maja, who receives notice that her estranged father has left her with an island that she used to love visiting as a child. Her boyfriend convinces her to go back one last time before selling the place, and there she comes across her childhood best friend and latent feelings resurface. From the trailer, it's giving off Lifetime Hallmarky vibes, so I'm not convinced this is a good quality film, but it's probably an easy, uncomplicated watch with a happy ending. This movie, along with all the ones that I've talked about on my channel, can easily be filtered, and my reviews found on my sapphic film and TV database that I have over on my Patreon, along with a video podcast where I recap and review every episode of Xena Warrior Princess, the OG lesbian TV show, and other exclusive videos such as my recent one where I talk about every single piece of content I've watched so far this year. Thank you to all my Patreons who've signed up so far, especially to my top tier supporters, Jeff Marshall, Pamela Stewart, Nicola Jahido, Austrian Wolf, and Lindsay R. Your support is so appreciated. If you have not joined but want to be a part of that, hop on over. There is a link in the description. All About E is an Australian film that follows Elmira, a queer DJ in a dodgy club who finds herself in possession of a big bag of cash. With her gay best friend, she looks to lay low while her boss sends his goons after her. This leads to her seeking out an old flame on a remote cattle ranch, which forces her to face up to her past and her past behavior. It also means that they are far from help when the goons show up. It looks to be an indie movie with comedy and drama all mixed in, and an angry looking ex. Could be fun. And because it was suggested to me in the comments, I'm guessing Elmira gets the girl. The 2018 film Carmen y Lola, where Carmen is like all women in her Madrid-based Romani community to be married off so she can have as many children as possible. When she meets Lola, an independent, alternative queer Romani girl, she is intrigued, and so blossoms a friendship that turns to love. It will see them having to confront their conservative community. The trailer looks like this is a quality independent film and certainly not a culture I've seen much of, especially for LGBTQ+ themes. Since it was recommended in the comments, I'm guessing the girls end up together, giving us a happy ending. However, I also suspect this film will be dealing with some pretty tough themes. It certainly doesn't strike me as a light-hearted, heartwarming watch. Still, I'm intrigued. Castaways is a 2023 Tubi original movie that you can watch for free where a pandemic is raging. Emily and her mother find themselves on a boat with others out in the ocean to try and escape. Only Emily ends up shipwrecked on an island with another woman, Cara, with everyone else missing. Bonded by their need to survive, they grow close, only survival is not the only thing that they have to worry about. The premise could be interesting, but I don't know if the execution is any good. Still, good on Tubi for making original content with sapphic ladies who get a good ending in them. That's appreciated. I have a link in the description if you want to check it out. You may need a VPN if you're in a country that doesn't get Tubi. Another film where the premise sounds interesting but that I'm not convinced is any good given the trailer is 2-11. It's a film from 2022 and I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not because it was in the IMDb description, but I suspect it is actually a reveal for later in the film, so sorry if it spoils the movie. It's about two women who reunite in the afterlife in what appears to be a remote cabin. They must deal with their relationship after being separated by a tragic accident. Since they're already dead, I'm giving it a pass on the whole dead lesbian trope thing, and I'm guessing they sort their issues out before heading off to eternity to be together. Now, if you don't mind it when a lesbian sleeps with a man, then this next one is, from memory, a fairly decent film and boasts a great cast. It's The Kids Are Alright, where a lesbian couple must contend with a sperm donor coming on the scene when their teenage kids decide they want to meet their father. It causes some ripples, one of which I've already covered. It was getting some award recognition when it came out in 2010, but, well, it's not my fave for obvious reasons. Still, by the end, the sapphic ladies are back together, and so it does count as a happy ending. Let me cover the next few briefly. Based on a true story, Colette looks at the French author who wrote a series of successful books for girls that her husband took credit for, and looks at her sapphic dalliances. Addicted to Fresno, which has two sisters trying to cover up a dead body. One of them, played by Natasha Lyonne, has a crush on a girl played by Aubrey Plaza. Out of Season is a 1998 film that I couldn't find any clips for except this lone one, and it seems the only way to see it is to buy the lone DVD from Amazon, so just a brief mention here in case one of you decides you want to buy it. Mickey falls for Roberta when she comes to take care of her uncle at Cape May, but Roberta is not convinced Mickey wants anything serious and won't give in unless Mickey is serious about a relationship with her. The next few are not what I'd call happy endings for the sapphic couple because they don't necessarily end up in a relationship, but it is an uplifting ending. Liana, a lovely film that I personally rather enjoyed. It follows a young housewife and mother who, when she decides to start taking some community college classes, finds herself attracted to the teacher who happens to be a sapphic. Curious to explore her sexuality, she begins an affair, one that helps her realize how unhappy she is in her marriage. When her husband, who himself has been having affairs for a while, finds out about this, it spells the end of their relationship. It's not a categorically happy ending, especially since she has to, in a sense, choose between her children and being true to herself. But she does break free from the confines of her old life, and through it, her future feels not just sapphic, but hopeful, which was certainly not a given in the early 80s with queer films. The final on this list is Life Partners, which looks at two best friends who have a codependent relationship that is thrown up in the air when one of them, Paige, gets a boyfriend and suddenly she doesn't have time for Sasha like she did before. Sasha goes on a dating spree with a string of women to fill the hole, but that goes nowhere. Ultimately, they have to face their friendship and how it has changed. The focus is not a love story, so while the two friends manage to navigate things, it doesn't end with Sasha in a relationship, and that is totally fine. It's a film that I remember enjoying quite a lot, so I do recommend. First up, we have Ellie, Abby, and Ellie's Dead Aunt, which looks like a cute, quirky rom-com where teenager Ellie is crushing hard on Abby and wants to take her to the formal. This prompts her to come out to her mum, whose response isn't the enthusiastic acceptance she'd hoped for. Off the emotional turmoil of that, her dead aunt suddenly appears to her and is determined to help her navigate this difficult period. This Australian production boasts some familiar faces, like the mum who plays Sapphic as the titular character in the series Janet King, the love interest who played queer on Wentworth, the dead aunt who played queer in a film I covered in the last part of the series All About E, and I have to give a shout out to fellow Kiwi Rachel House who, as far as I know, hasn't played queer but has voiced the grandma in Moana, appeared on the pretty darn queer show Our Flag Means Death, and was also in one of my favourite New Zealand films, Hunt for the Wilder People, which you should totally check out. This one goes on my list for sure. Then we have Idle Thoughts, a Canadian low-budget film that is set in my adoptive town of Vancouver, which, I'll be honest, has me more excited than anything else about this film. It's about a young woman, Poppy, who has perfected the art of laziness and one-night stands. That is, until she meets Elaine, who pushes her to deal with her writer's block. In order to do so, she must try being in a relationship, and I'm guessing the relationship goes well. There is a free copy of the film on YouTube, which I have linked in the description in case you want to check it out. Along Came Wanda is another low-budget film that is available on YouTube, so again, link in the description. Mary Beth is in the progress of divorcing her husband, exacerbated by the pandemic. Her kid is grown up and she's not clear about what her path is. When a virtual stranger, Wanda, invites her to come on a road trip in her tiny home van, Mary Beth throws caution to the wind and says yes. So begins a journey to discovering who she is and what she wants. I started watching this a long time ago and didn't finish it. It wasn't for me, but I didn't have to see the end to know that it ended well for the ladies. For something a little different, Breaking the Ice is an Austrian film from 2022 that centers Mira, who plays ice hockey, partly as a way to escape from the pressures of running her family vineyard. When a new player arrives on the team, she finds herself challenged in more ways than one, forcing her to face her rigid worldview. From the trailer, it looks like it's a good film. I jumped over to the website Just Watch to see where it was available, and it looks like it is readily available in Austria and, of all places, Australia. This next one looks promising if the over 7 million views on the film is anything to go by. I have it linked for you in the description. And from the trailer, this looks like a genuinely good, beautiful and meditative film. When Jenna struggles to write her wedding vows, she must face her deepest fears and anxieties about not being good enough for her bride-to-be, Robin. And then the IMDb write-up says, when they arrive at their secluded fairy tale venue, sinister forces besiege them, threatening to tear them apart. So, sounds like there is a bit more to this movie. It is also labelled as a horror, which I didn't necessarily get from the trailer, but I might just ignore my general avoidance of the horror genre for this one. Okay, this next one came to me as a surprise because I have been led to believe, based off the research I have done, that Desert Hearts in 1985 was the first lesbian film with a happy ending, and this Canadian film would seem to prove that quite wrong. By Design is a 1981 film about a lesbian couple who work together as fashion designers who want nothing more than to have a child together, and in order to do that, they must find themselves a sperm donor. They set their eyes on their photographer, but things are not smooth sailing. Hello, editing me here. As I was collecting clips for this part of the video, I had to scan the movie and I came across some stuff. And based off what I saw, I feel like I want to remove this entire section because it feels like it's a happy ending technically, but the journey to get there is rage-inducing. Not only do we have a reprehensible sperm donor who is sexist and sexually harasses the women in his workplace, but he gets off with a light tap on the hand and then he gets to sleep with the lesbians. Yes, indeed. We see both lesbian women having sex with men in order to get pregnant, which, I don't know, have they heard of a turkey baster? Meanwhile, the two women don't appear to have a single kiss from the quick scrub through that I did. And then both women get pregnant. One of them has a stillborn, and I don't know who wrote this movie, but thanks, I hate it. Still, it does have a happy ending in the sense that they end up with the child they so wanted and they end up together. Anywho, back to the video. I have found a low-quality version of the film, link in the description. Catskin is a film from 2017 that looks at a shy teen cat who retreats into her photography as she struggles with homophobic bullying and a mother in hospital. When the popular girl April discovers that Kate has made her the subject of a photography project, this leads to a friendship that blossoms into more. However, April has problems of her own, an overbearing mother and a possessive boyfriend. The possessive boyfriend does put me off somewhat, but it could be a decent indie film to check out. I'm on a roll here because I have a link for that one too. The next one I don't have a link for because it's the 2023 film Drive Away Dolls, which apparently has a happy ending. From the trailer, it looks like it's a wild road trip movie where two sapphic ladies, tired of their lives, decide to drive to Florida, and to save money doing so, they sign up to deliver a car to its destination. Only the car they are driving belongs to some bad men who are doing illegal things, and these bad men are now after them. My mum saw this one and thought it was great and recommended I watch it for this channel, which probably means, knowing my mum, it's got some naughty humour in there somewhere. And it would also seem like some romance that ends well too. This next one looks like a comedy movie with a twist, where three best friends who live and make music together are given the opportunity of a lifetime when some music bigwigs want them to show them some demos of their music. Only they don't have the demos and don't have the money to make it, unless one of them gets access to their trust fund, and that requires them to get married. So they decide to get married to each other. Yes, all three of them, since as far as they're concerned, they're already family. This doesn't lead to a poly situation, although one of them is bi, and she has a girlfriend, which causes issues when the trio's family starts showing up and they have to explain why they have other partners and probably also why they're all married to each other. While it looks like it's a slick production, the two lone one-star ratings on IMDb suggests that this is not good. So I guess watch at your peril, but I'm guessing it ends well for the sapphics. This next one is a Tubi original, which looks like it could be a decent watch. Riley is the first girl on her American football team, which pushes her not just physically, but mentally as she deals with the pushback from people around her. While the stress of going to state championship is mounting, things are further complicated for her when she meets Paige, and she begins to develop feelings for her, forcing her to deal with her sexuality in an environment that might not be accepting of it. Now, the next few I will cover briefly. Go Fish, the art house black and white film from the 90s about Max, who is reluctant to go on a date with a girl, but when her friends convince her to go, she finds she likes her. Between two women that I feel I've mentioned a bazillion times at this point, a teacher and a mother of one of her students develop feelings for each other in 1950s England. I have a link in the description to the movie. Late Bloomers, about a teacher and the principal secretary who grow close and discover they are in love, leading to one of them leaving their husband and kids. It causes something of a stir within the school. I also have a link to this movie in the description. Bobby's Girl, where a lesbian couple running a pub on the Irish coast find themselves responsible for their nephew when he is orphaned, while also dealing with a cancer diagnosis. It ends well, and I also have a link to this in the description, although it's a low quality version of the film. This last one doesn't have a happy sapphic ending, but it is an uplifting movie. Grey Matters is a rom-com where a brother, Sam, and the sister Grey, who are also best friends and roommates, decide it's high time they find themselves partners. When out at the dog park, they meet Charlie and they are both charmed. When romance blossoms between Sam and Charlie, Grey finds herself feeling jealous, and while at first she assumes it's because she feels she's losing Sam to this relationship, things turn serious when Sam and Charlie get engaged, and through the wedding preparations to which Grey is to be bridesmaid, she realizes her jealousy is because she's attracted to Charlie, which makes things a little complicated. I watched this many years ago and I personally enjoyed it. It's very much in the rom-com wheelhouse, although it doesn't end the way we sapphics may want. Grey does, however, figure out that she's gay, so that is a win in my books. I Hate New Year's is a rom-com from 2020 about a rising musician who returns to Nashville over New Year's to break her writer's block. She finds herself on a quest to reconnect with her ex with her best friend in tow, but perhaps love has been right in front of her the whole time and she just needs to realize it. While that's happening, her career also takes a bit of a turn. This is a Tallow film, and so I expect that it will be similar in style to the tone of Tallow's Christmas films, Christmas at the Ranch, A Season of Love, Merry and Gay, and A Holiday I Do. One thing is for sure, it will end well for the sapphic ladies. If anyone has seen it, what did you think? I'm curious to know. This, along with all the Tallow Christmas movie selection, can be rented or bought directly from the Tallow website, which I have linked in the description. Marinette is a French film based on the true story of soccer prodigy Marinette Pichon and the challenges that she had to overcome in order to play professionally. Encouraged by her mother at a young age, she played with the boys in a mixed team until she hit 16, at which time she was told that she could no longer compete with the boys, even though she is a better player than them. Despite a turbulent and violent household, she manages to get selected for the French women's soccer team, but given how women in sport are not treated equally, this poses its own difficulties. And of course, it makes it onto this list because she is a sapphic, which may or may not play a large role in the film. Regardless, this film looks like a solid biopic that certainly has my interest peaked, and so now it is on my to-watch list. Looks like this one is available on Apple TV. My Brother's War is a 2005 film set during the US Civil War of the 1860s about Grace, who decides to pose as a man so she can infiltrate the rebel army in order to find and protect her brother, just as she had promised her dying father. Along the way, she meets a widow grieving the loss of her only son, and they form a bond as they attempt to avoid being caught by the warring armies. But could Grace's secret, her true gender, ruin the feelings that are brewing between them? It looks like a pretty ambitious period piece for a low budget, and one that could potentially be pretty decent, although the reviews on IMDb are mixed. Perhaps if you're into period pieces that center around the American Civil War, this might be for you. The fact that Whitney Hamilton, writer, director, and actor, managed to fund a remake of the film called Union in 2018 suggests that there could be something to this film, and the remake looks to be a higher quality version in terms of set and cinematography at least. The premise is more or less the same, but with a few changes. In this one, the brother is dead and our protagonist has assumed his identity, living as Henry and marrying Virginia the widow in order to save her from being married off to someone who she neither loves nor wants to be wed to. From the IMDb write-up, it looks like the relationship between Henry and Virginia is framed as them being soulmates. The two reviews I found didn't exactly sing its praises, however, so I guess watch at your peril. But both films have a happy ending. This next one, called Eva from 2014, I have seen and I thought it was a charming film. Eva is dealing with the death of her boyfriend. After a bad date, she finds herself spinning out when she comes across a young woman who, seeing her struggle, takes her in for the night. As they spend more time together, a mutual attraction grows, but is Eva ready for a relationship given the grief that she has? This is a well-made, intimate film that focuses closely on the emotional journey of its protagonist with some lovely characterization and strong performances. It is made on a shoestring budget, but it is not a disadvantage to the film, allowing it to have that indie, low-budget vibe while leveraging the resources it has to good effect. It certainly feels like a rare and little-known find. Best of all, this film is available on YouTube for free, so check out the description for a link. Same but different, a true New Zealand love story is the other film that I have seen from this list, and I wish I liked it more than I did, since sapphic Kiwi films are sparse to non-existent. But I have to be honest, I found the humour pretty cringy, like it was trying too hard, and much of the acting subpar. and over the top. That was just me though. I have seen other people talk about how they enjoyed it. It is a rom-com based on the true story where Rachel, divorcee and mother, finds herself falling for Nikki when she sees her talking at a marae about the importance of Indigenous filmmaking. This is despite never being attracted to a woman before. Feeling like a fish out of water, not just because of these new feelings, but also for forcing her to step out of her Pākehā suburban life, she fumbles her way through this attraction, but ultimately true love wins. The movie was written and directed by Nikki Seulepa, so it is a film that hits very close to home for her, much like Elena Undone was based on the real-life love story of Nicole Conn and Marina Rice Bader. Maybe if I rewatch it now, I'd feel more forgiving about it, as I have been with other films I've watched, but I have misplaced the copy I bought, so I didn't have time to rewatch it for this video. Polarized is a film that I've seen get a few good reviews by you in the comments, so it sounds like it could be a good watch, although ironically, the reviews on IMDb are pretty polarized on whether this film is good. It ends well for the ladies, however. A young songwriter finds herself working on a new state-of-the-art farm run by Palestinian immigrants after her family's farm goes into foreclosure. After making some racist remarks, she loses her job, but from there an affair develops between her and the daughter running the farm, which does not sit well with either of their families. It looks like it features a solid sapphic romance at the center, and I imagine some commentary on the state of corporate farming and racism, as well as some singing of songs. It's available to buy or rent right here on YouTube, link in the description. It's also free if you belong to a library that uses Hoopla for its online catalogue, or you can also find it on Apple TV. Finland has a film from 2004 with a happy ending called Producing Adults, where Venla finds out that her longtime boyfriend got a vasectomy, but she wants to start a family. She goes to a fertility specialist and finds herself unexpectedly falling in love with her doctor, which will have some far-ranging consequences. This was the Academy Award foreign film submission for Finland in 2004, which may mean it could be worth seeking out, and that is about all I could find on this film. The next few I'll mention briefly. Goldfish Memory, an Irish rom-com film from 2003 that follows the dating life of various people in Dublin. It has an ensemble cast of which a sapphic couple is just one storyline of many. I saw that it can be rented on the Tallow website. The Guest House is about a goth teen who is dealing with the death of her mother from cancer when her dad's new employee comes to stay in her family guest house. The two young women begin to spend time together and an attraction develops. From the trailer, the quality of the film looks pretty iffy, but it does have a happy ending, or so I'm told. This can be found for free on Tubi, and I have a link to that in the description. Beyond Love is an Italian film that looks at a lesbian and gay couple who are friends. The lesbian couple want to have kids and approach their gay friends to help them, only the ladies can't agree on who should carry. The whole situation causes much conflict, but it does end well. This film can also be found on Tubi, so link in the description. Me, Myself and Her is another Italian film that is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's certainly not mine because it has one of my least favorite tropes. One of the ladies in a sapphic couple of 5 years is still struggling with the fact that she has fallen in love with a woman, not helped by the fact that her family is not all that accepting. She has an affair with a man. Yes, that's the unfortunate trope which leads to her breaking up with her girlfriend. It makes it onto this list because by the end of the film she realizes that she only wants to be with her girlfriend. But we have to suffer a bit in order to get to the happy ending. Starting with Healed, a 2023 release, and can be found for free on YouTube, for which I have a link in the description. It follows a pregnant lesbian couple who go away for a week-long spiritual private retreat only to find themselves caught up in a secret experiment that could impact the rest of their lives. It's marked as a thriller and looks like it gets pretty intense, so there is that, but they end up relatively unharmed, by which I mean the baby is fine, they're covered in blood but otherwise unharmed, and they're together at the end. You might recognize actress Emily Goss, who has appeared in the Christmas film Season of Love and in the film Snapshots, and I have enjoyed her performances before, so that's certainly a plus in my books. Her co-star Chantal Yasmin Abedera was in another film that has made it onto a previous list, Girls Like Magic. Next we have The Substitute, a 2017 film from Taiwan about Lu, who has been brought up more or less as a boy because her mother was raising her as a replacement to her absent brother who was off in Beijing. This means she sports short hair and captains her school's judo team. When she competes in a tournament to win the lead role in an action movie, she meets Nicole and develops a crush on her. Nicole wins the role, but when she disappears days before the shooting, Lu finds herself thrown into the part. I have a link to the movie in the description. Bye Bye Blondie is a French film from 2011 where two women who had been in love as teenagers reconnect in their 40s, only to find that their relationship is just as tempestuous as it was in their youths. It boasts Emmanuel Béard and Béatrice Dalle in the lead role, although reviews on IMDb peg it as a mediocre film and suggest that the book the film was based on is a much better read. Still, it's a sapphic film with a happy ending, so it gets a spot on the list. Rescuing Desire is a film from 1996 where Tony finds herself faced with her own mortality when her teenage son dies. Determined to live her life fully, it resurfaces a long-denied desire to explore her sexuality. With the support of her best friend, Van, she steps out into a new world where she can not only explore what it is to be a woman, but what it is to throw off the ill-fitting cloak of conformity. I found a low-quality version of the film on YouTube with what looks like Dutch subtitles that I've linked. Next we have What's Up Scarlet, which looks to be an indie rom-com movie from 2005 about a workaholic woman whose job is to matchmake, only she herself is very single despite her mother's best attempts to set her up with a man. When Scarlet crashes into a homeless actress's car one day, she lets her stay temporarily at her home, not expecting that she might just have crashed into the love of her life. This looks like to be a relatively low budget, possibly overacted and over-the-top film, but it still might be worth checking out. Butterfly is a 2004 movie from Hong Kong about a married teacher who bumps into a vivacious young singer, and this encounter reawakens dormant feelings she's tucked away from when she had a fling with a woman as a teen. This leads her on a journey to accepting a part of herself she thought she'd left behind. This looks like to be a quiet and emotional film, one that ends well, however. There is a playlist for this movie on YouTube with English subs, however one of the parts is unavailable unfortunately, but I've still linked it all the same just in case. The next one boasts Eva Longoria playing Sapphic in what looks like to be a pretty light-hearted, probably quite silly rom-commy kind of film, where due to all the men being forcefully recruited to fight with communist guerrillas, a Latin American town finds itself left with only the women. With no one in charge, Rosalva, wife of the mayor, volunteers to step up as all the women learn how to take care of all the things the men used to do. As Rosalva steps out of the shadow of her husband, she also finds herself attracted to a lesbian drifter. Could this be true love? Now, the IMDb review almost ubiquitously pans this film, so my expectations around it are pretty low despite there being a few known names in there. But I don't know, sometimes a silly mediocre film is just the ticket to veg out to, especially if it has sapphics in them and you know it ends well. A more recent film is Backspot from last year, which looks at the grueling and high-octane competitive sphere of cheerleading. When Riley and her girlfriend Amanda are selected to be on an all-star cheer squad, they are faced with a coach who will push them to their limits. The movie stars Devery Jacobs, who also starred in the excellent series Reservation Dogs, and has Evan Rachel Wood playing the coach, so two excellent queer actors headlining. I heard tepid reviews on the grapevine, and IMDb has no reviews, so I'm not sure how good it actually is. Girl's Blood, a 2014 Japanese film, is touted as an erotic action film. I'm sure there are plenty of these kinds of films out there, but it's my first time coming across such a genre combination. From reviews, it appears the action part of it is well done, and perhaps the erotic part a bit cringy, according to one of the reviews. It follows four young women, each with their own past, who belong to an illegal underground catfight club where two of them fall in love. Claire of the Moon from 1992 follows Claire, who has recently split from her husband. Struggling with some writer's block, she goes to an all-women's writer's retreat where she finds herself sharing a house with Noelle, who reveals she is a lesbian. As time goes on, she finds herself confused at how she is attracted to Noelle, and it ultimately leads to her falling into bed with her. This is the only film on this list that I have actually seen, but it wasn't my fave. However, it is a classic and you might enjoy it. You can watch it on Tubi, link in the description. Then we have Desperate Remedies, a surrealist, highly stylized 19th century romp of a film from New Zealand. It follows Dorothea, shopkeeper and dress designer who works with her lady love Anne, who is trying to keep her sister Rose away from her former lover by enlisting the help of a roguish man, Lawrence. Instead of saving her sister, she finds herself in a tortured triangle with Lawrence. The ending is more satisfying because in the end, Dorothea escapes the clutches of her husband to reunite with the love of her life, Anne. The film is available for rent or purchase on the New Zealand Film On Demand website. Finally, I have Bao Bao, a Taiwanese film that looks at a lesbian and gay couple who both want kids, and so they decide to help each other out. I wasn't quite clear on the situation and what was going on, but things get complicated, it seems, and it looks like the lesbian couple spend some time apart. Then there is some bury your gays, but not for the ladies, it's the men who die. So I guess a brief mention only because it's technically a happy ending for the ladies, but at what cost? The movie is available on YouTube with subs, so I have linked that in the description for you. That's it for this list. Next, I think I will slowly update my TV shows that won't break your heart series because that one is a bit out of date. And if you want a butt ton of recommendations of both film and TV with happy endings, click on the playlist on your screen. Until next time, lady lovers.